The courtroom was supposed to be a place of justice, but that day it became something else entirely. A respected attorney stood before the judge, accused of crossing a line he never dared touch. The tension was thick, every eye fixed on the man who dared to challenge the system. Then, in a stunning twist, the judge ordered his arrest, right there in court. But what happened next would shake the foundation of justice itself. Was this truly about the law, or something far more dangerous? Before that fateful day in court, attorney Marcus Reed was known for one thing: his fearless pursuit of justice. He wasn't just another lawyer in a suit. He was the voice for those who had none. Growing up in a community where injustice wasn't just common, but expected, Marcus made a silent promise to himself. He would never stay quiet in the face of prejudice. Years of hard work had earned him respect from the people, but not everyone saw his rise as a victory. Some saw it as defiance, a man of color standing too tall in a system not built for him. Behind polite smiles and courtroom manners, tension was brewing. The case that brought him face to face with Judge Wallace wasn't supposed to be controversial. But from the moment Marcus walked into that courtroom, something felt off. The judge's tone, the prosecutor's smirk, even the jury's uneasy glances. It all carried a weight that couldn't be ignored. Still, Marcus did what he always did. He fought with truth, reason, and dignity. But as the hearing went on, small moments of disrespect began stacking up, a warning he didn't yet recognize. Because soon, one powerful decision would turn this courtroom into a battlefield. And when it did, Marcus would learn just how fragile justice could be when power, pride, and prejudice collide. From the very start of the hearing, Marcus Reed sensed that something was wrong. It wasn't the usual courtroom tension. It was colder, sharper, personal. Judge Wallace, a man known for his stern demeanor, seemed to have already made up his mind. Every time Marcus spoke, the judge's gavel hit a little harder, his patience a little thinner. Marcus was defending a young black client accused of assaulting a police officer, a charge built more on assumptions than evidence. The prosecution's witnesses fumbled through inconsistent stories, yet each time Marcus pressed for clarity, he was met with interruption. "Move along, counselor," the judge would bark, cutting him off mid-sentence. The gallery whispered. Even the jury exchanged uneasy glances. Still, Marcus kept his composure. He'd been through this before. The dismissive tones, the veiled prejudice, the unspoken rule that his voice didn't carry the same weight as others. But this time, something inside him burned hotter. He couldn't let another innocent man be destroyed by a system that refused to see truth beyond skin color. When the prosecution submitted new evidence at the last minute, footage mysteriously edited, conveniently missing key moments, Marcus stood his ground. "Your Honor, this is a violation of procedure," he argued firmly. The courtroom went silent. Judge Wallace leaned forward, his eyes narrow, cold. "Are you questioning my court, Mr. Reed?" Marcus didn't flinch. "I'm questioning the fairness of this trial." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. The judge's face hardened. His pride struck deep. What happened next shocked everyone. Wallace slammed his gavel, his voice echoing like thunder. "Mr. Reed, you're in contempt of court." "Bailiff, take him into custody." The words hit like a hammer. The very man sworn to uphold justice was now silencing it. Marcus stood motionless as two officers approached. Cameras flashed. The courtroom, once murmuring with formality, erupted in chaos. His client shouted, "He didn't do anything," but was quickly silenced. As the officers grabbed Marcus by the arms, his eyes met the judge's. And in that moment, everyone saw it. This wasn't about courtroom order. It was about control, about power, about making an example of a man who dared to challenge authority. The news spread within hours. "Attorney arrested during trial," the headlines screamed. But what the public didn't yet know was that the arrest itself would become the spark that exposed everything Judge Wallace had tried to hide. Marcus's colleagues, civil rights groups, and even former clients began to rally. Footage from the courtroom leaked online, showing not a man out of order, but a judge out of line. Viewers were outraged. Hashtags flooded social media. The court that once silenced Marcus was now the one under scrutiny, And as Judge Wallace sat in his chambers, watching the backlash grow by the minute, he realized too late the move meant to break Marcus had just ignited something far bigger than either of them could control. The balance of power was shifting. But the real reckoning was yet to come. Marcus Reed spent that night in a cold holding cell, not as an accused criminal, but as a symbol of what happens when truth threatens power. The clang of metal doors echoed like a reminder of the injustice he had fought his entire life. Outside those walls, the story had already exploded. News outlets, civil rights attorneys, and millions online demanded answers. The next morning, the courtroom was different. Tense, packed. Cameras lined the back wall. Judge Wallace entered, expecting authority. But this time, all eyes weren't on him. They were on Marcus. The man he tried to silence now stood taller than ever, calm but unbroken. As the bailiff announced proceedings, a representative from the state bar rose from the audience. "Your Honor," she began, her voice firm, "we've received multiple complaints regarding judicial misconduct and a violation of constitutional rights." Whispers swept through the room. Wallace's expression faltered. The same arrogance that once commanded fear now cracked under the weight of exposure. Marcus didn't gloat, didn't smirk. He simply looked on, steady, silent, because he knew this moment wasn't about revenge. It was about truth finally standing where it belonged. Then came the evidence. Full, unedited footage of the trial, the interruptions, the bias, the order of arrest without cause. Every second played out for the world to see. Gasps filled the room as the truth unfolded. What had once been whispers of racism and abuse of power now stood undeniable. For the first time, Judge Wallace couldn't hide behind his robe. He sat frozen, watching his own downfall play out like a mirror reflecting years of unchecked arrogance. And as Marcus was officially cleared of all charges, the courtroom erupted, not in chaos but in a collective sigh of justice. Yet beneath the applause, one truth remained. For every Marcus who stood tall, countless others still suffered in silence. The system had been shaken. But was it ready to change? In the weeks that followed, Judge Wallace was suspended pending a full investigation. The footage that once humiliated Marcus now stood as undeniable proof. Proof of a system that still too often punishes those who dare to speak truth while protecting those who abuse power. Marcus could have walked away. He could have celebrated quietly, moved on, and let the noise fade. But that wasn't who he was. Instead, he turned his ordeal into a mission. He began speaking at universities, hosting workshops for young attorneys, and standing beside families who felt silenced by the system. His arrest became more than a personal injustice. It became a spark that reignited conversations across the nation about race, authority, and accountability. People began asking hard questions. Why did it take public outrage for justice to be served? How many others without cameras had been buried by silence? Marcus knew that his victory wasn't the end of a fight. It was the beginning of one. Because real justice isn't about winning a single case. It's about changing the system that allows such moments to happen at all. The same courtroom where he was once handcuffed later hosted a hearing that led to new guidelines against judicial bias. The irony wasn't lost on him. From the same seat where he had been silenced, new voices were finally being heard. As he stood outside the courthouse one final time, sunlight breaking through the clouds, Marcus whispered the words he had carried his whole life. Justice isn't a privilege. It's a right. And maybe that's the real story. That even in a world built to silence truth, one voice, steady and unbroken, can still make the system listen. Because sometimes, the most powerful verdict isn't written on paper. It's written in the hearts of those who refuse to give up.